Hey, welcome in to another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. And yep, we're goonless. Chris Buganani, kind enough to fill in yet again for the Dear Goon as we get ready for a big NFL weekend. We're going to talk a little Steelers-Eagles playoff chances here throughout the course of the show. Real quick before we get into that, though, Booch, I thought a real good win last night for Penn State basketball. And again,
I didn't realize how good Wagner was. That was, I mean, as far as these kind of whatever you want to call them, group of five or non-power conference opponents, they went to the tournament last year. They returned their entire starting lineup.
Yep.
They put a hurting on VCU, who Penn State's going to play pretty soon.
Yep. And I thought that the again, we talked about it on Tuesday, that just I like the overall trajectory of the program. I like the way they keep building on the pieces. It feels like going back, again, just from the initial hire of Micah Shrewsbury. But I think one of the more encouraging things about last night was that second half performance, right? I mean, they took a game that was very competitive and a game that I think, truthfully, most probably thought was going to be competitive throughout. And Penn State was able to open up and really not get back into danger mode down the stretch there. And I just think I think it speaks volumes to and listen, I'm sure there's going to be mistakes made. I'm sure there have been mistakes made, but it just feels like Shrewsbury continues to push all the right buttons. And a couple of things last night, and again, in the overall scheme, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is just unbelievable coaching, but those two fouls late in the first half that they knew that they had to give, and they gave, again, yes, that's what every good coach team would do, but we haven't always seen that over the years with Penn State basketball,
right.
Where, yes, the obvious things that you do, but they did them. Again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that's a reason that Shrewsbury should be put on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches, but man, it's encouraging that a guy early in his head coaching career, is doing all of the little things that you expect good coaches to do. And to be able to do that out of the gate, I do not think is insignificant. And again, I think the halftime adjustments against a well-coached team and a veteran team like that, and getting your team to understand what it needed to do to widen that gap, and then for the kids to go out and execute. Again, to me, just everything since what I think was the wrongful termination of Pat Chambers, I do think everything since then within the program, and certainly since the hiring of Shrewsbury, but starting with that hiring, I mean, I think it is looking more and more like a truly great hire by Penn State.
Yeah, I think it was Sam Sessoms who in the post-game interviews specifically credited the halftime adjustment that Coach Shrewsbury drew up to counter Wagner's defensive scheme that broke the game open in the second half. So, yeah, to your point, those are the little things, but when you're trying to build up a program at a place like Penn State, if you don't lay a foundation with the details, your big picture is hopeless.
And listen, I do think it's one of those things that recruits and or transfers are looking at, right? Like if I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go somewhere that feels like it knows what it's doing, and somewhere where it feels like it's a program that can take the next step with me being part of that equation. And I think all of that is there right now for Penn State basketball. And again, we'll see what happens. I don't think there's anything guaranteed, or I'm not going to make any grand proclamations or pronouncements, but I'm just telling you, I continue to be very impressed with what this program is doing here in laying the foundation to truly have a future where it's not, man, we're hoping once a decade we can have that run where we might get to the NCAA tournament and maybe even win a game or two. This feels, right? It feels like the foundation is being laid here for continued success. And again, for Penn State basketball, that means getting the NCAA tournament more often than not in a 10-year period. If you can get there 5 or 6 times over a 10-year period, right, that is huge stuff for Penn State basketball.
If you get there twice in a 10-year period, you've essentially doubled the rate we've had for the last 30 years. Listen, as you know, Ironhead, I love to make snarky jokes at the men's basketball program's expense. And as you probably realize, it's a defense mechanism. I love Penn State basketball. I'm celebrating my 10th year of being a season ticket holder. I would love nothing more than to see the community get a little enthused about the basketball program. And I'll say 2 things. Number one, what you just laid out about Shrewsbury as a coach is why resume matters. I mean, it meant a lot to me when we hired him that he had been around 3 winning organizations.
Yep.
You know, Butler making a Final Four run, Purdue under Matt Painter has been one of the most consistent programs in the Big Ten and in college basketball, really. And as much as it pains me to say it, Brad Stevens' Celtics have been very consistently competitive in the Eastern Conference in the NBA for years, and Shrewsbury was an integral part of all 3 of those guys' coaching staffs, man. Like, it makes a difference. And the other thing is, I was there for the Ohio State game, and, you know, look, I think Penn State fans of good conscience can probably disagree on Jamari Wheeler. If nothing else, I respect the guy's troll game for sure.
Yep.
But you heard all that talk about the additional number of student tickets that were sold coming into this season. And let me say that as long as the team was competitive in that game and giving the crowd a reason to get into it, it got loud and raucous in there. And so as he builds the program, if he can continue to give fans, students on campus, fans in the community, reason to come in, and, you know, just if you can fill up consistently that lower bowl of the Bryce Jordan Center, forget the upper decks. Keep the black curtains up. You just fill that place in the lower bowl and you put a good product on the court.
Yep.
Yeah, even if, you know, you're not consistently ranked in the top 25, if you're competitive in the Big Ten, that can be a good, fun environment and an atmosphere to play in. And then the great thing, as Goon always points out with college basketball, is the transfer portal means you are always only one season away from adding the 1 or 2 pieces who can elevate your program. So if you want to get in at the ground level, I think Ironhead and I are both bullish.
Yeah, in a big way.
Stupidly,
and again,
very foolishly.
To this point, I've just seen no reason to not be on the Shrewsbury bandwagon.
You know what I say about Penn State basketball is fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 7,642 times. I'm ready to come back for 7,643.
Bring it on. Yep, I hear you.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk some NFL. Steelers with a I don't think you can legitimately call it a must-win, but it sure has that feel.
I truly hate that term, and I think this is probably as close as you're going to get.
Here's the thing: for the Steelers to truly feel, I think they can lose one more game and definitively get in the playoffs.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So you could, in theory, lose this game, and I think still, in my mind, and it wouldn't truly be definitive, but I think if they win the rest of their games, they're in. But the problem is when you look at the rest of those games, the chances of winning the rest of those games feels astronomically small. You've got the Titans coming up. You've got obviously another date with an unhappy Ravens team coming up. You have a little team from Kansas City coming up, Cleveland. So that there is the chances of running the table if you lose to a Minnesota Vikings team that, again, comes in with a losing record. When you look at the remaining teams on the schedule, it seems very unlikely that the Steelers would run the table. Now, do I think it's possible that the Steelers could lose 2 games in the remaining schedule and get in? I do think it's possible. I think it's very dicey. I think it's I don't think it's a good probability. By the way, before we really get into this, can I just tell you that I think it is it's fun as far as it goes, and I understand why it's done, and I understand what the draw is. But, I mean, it is truly absurd to be sitting here and ascribing, as ESPN does, well, the Steelers at the moment stand an 18% chance of making the playoffs. If they win tonight, it's a 33% chance. If they lose tonight, it's a 10% chance, all of which is meaningless. It just depends how the Steelers, and I get it. I mean, the likelihood, but it's not actually the likelihood.
What was the percentage likelihood they were going to tie the Detroit Lions?
Well, exactly.
Right? So,
that's what I'm saying. It's just and it's the same thing. The college football playoffs. Well, this team has at the start of the season, they had a 10% chance. And now Cincinnati has, now at the moment, it'd be a 100% chance of making the playoffs this season. So,
right.
But I mean, it just, I pay attention to it, so I mean, they sucker me in. But
sure,
I do at least have the ability to step back and say, well, no, that's just absurd. Regardless of what the odds are in winning a particular game or getting into whatever scenario you're trying to play out, they aren't actually the odds because it's going to take care of itself, and you're going to find out one way or another. Again, I don't think it's truly a must-win, but it is as close as I think as you could have, and it does have that feel. And I think the Steelers rightfully are approaching this game as though it is a must-win tonight against the Vikings. The thing I like least about this game going in is when you're going on the road in a short week. That is just never an ideal. And the fact that you're coming off the late afternoon game on Sunday and that it was as physical and emotionally charged as that game always is, right? Like this is a really dangerous game. What I like about this is if you win, and that's the huge capital I, capital F, if you win this game and you're the Steelers, I love it because then you do have plenty of time to get yourself healed up as you can and ready to go for what is then another. Again, it will feel from here on out pretty much every week like it is close to a must-win game. And that game against the Titans will, again, have that feel for sure with Kansas City then coming up the following week, especially. The last thing you want to do is put yourself into a true must-win situation against the Kansas City Chiefs. That is not where you want to be. You want to have at least the feel of some wiggle room there going into that Kansas City game. And for that to happen, you have to win tonight and against the Titans a week from Sunday.
The other thing that's on the line tonight is if Minnesota can somehow pull off the win, then the transitive property of which team is actually worse than the Detroit Lions is a push.
Yeah.
So they do not want that stink left on them all alone.
And listen, how do you figure? It's the NFL, but even by NFL standards, where again, any team on any given Sunday, I mean, the cliche is there for a reason. Even with that being the standard, this season feels more crazy than the normal NFL season in terms of, you go from the Bengals even the Ravens a few weeks ago, it's like, well, the Ravens are going to run away with the division. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. The Ravens are falling apart a little bit. It's the Bengals. My gosh, the Bengals are going to run away with the division. And then the Bengals go out and lose, not just lose, but end up getting pounded in two different sections of the game, and the final score ends up pretty lopsided against these Vikings. And again, that's after they absolutely crushed in every imaginable way the Steelers. And now, I don't know. I just don't know what to make of the AFC North as a whole or the Steelers in particular. But again, I think these next two games are critical, vital, as close to must-win games as you could have at this stage of the season for the Steelers without truly, literally being must-win in that, they could lose either of these next two games and still be in the playoff race. I'm just not sure, mathematically they would be. I'm not sure realistically that they really would be.
Yeah, to speak to your larger point about the NFL this year, I think it's just kind of a timely for an entertainment value perspective, intersection of a changing of the guard,
Yep.
especially at quarterback, but all over the league. You're seeing, I mean, look, Micah Parsons is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, right?
For
Like
sure.
there is just a changing of the guard with a new generation of young guys ascendant. Like J.J. Watt starts the season on the roster in Arizona, and he gets another injury, which I think is probably going to be it for his career. Some of the big names at various positions, including quarterback, finally getting ready to ride off into the sunset. A lot of young talent ascending, and you're coming off such an odd year because of COVID.
Yep.
That maybe adds a little bit more unpredictability into the equation. I mean, again, from the perspective of being a fan, especially an Eagles fan who came in with absolutely zero expectations of anything, it's been fun. It has been very fun to watch the NFL this year.
Yeah, it has. And going back to TJ Watt for just a moment, because TJ has been truly unbelievable. I mean, you talk about the when you pay somebody that kind of money, you're wanting them to perform in the clutch.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, has there been a guy that has more consistently this season? And there probably has, but I'm not watching every game as closely as I once did. But I can't believe that there's anybody that is as consistently coming up bigger in the clutch than TJ Watt. I mean, the Steelers are not in the position they are in right now without TJ Watt. I mean, there's I think two more losses on that, at least two more losses on that resume right now for the Steelers if it's not for him coming up big in the fourth quarters.
Yeah, I'm getting old. You will remember this because you're a diehard Steelers fan. It's probably stuck in your brain a little bit better. All I can remember is that after the first game back after he signed the huge mega extension, he had a strip sack late in a game to change the game, and I can't remember who it was against.
It preserved the win. I mean,
who was that?
I think it was at the Browns game, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And the thing is, making the plays is the biggest thing, but I do think you can just sometimes you can just sense what a player brings in terms of presence and confidence, more so in like basketball or sports like that. But it feels different when Watt's on the field with that Steelers defense. And listen, Cam Hayward is a terrific talent. I mean, up and down that lineup, it is a good, really good defense. But there's just a difference in the way it feels like everybody on that side of the ball performs, or you can almost just see to go back to the favorite term of the Nittany Lions, that swagger. But you can almost literally see the swagger in that defense when TJ Watt is out there versus when he's not.
He's one of only a handful of players who's legitimately a game wrecker, which means when he's on the field, he changes the way the offense has to respond to his other 10 teammates, right? Yep. So, he is kind of, and again, brings me no deep joy to say it, even though as a Penn Stater, I'm proud Micah Parsons is having the same effect for Dallas's defense. Yep. It's just when that guy's on the field. And in the case of the Steelers, you guys also have Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick, who are no slouches themselves.
This is true. So, to me, if as far as the Steelers and the playoff chances now, right, you need to win this game tonight. To me, you need to win that Titans game. That becomes, to me, kind of the pivotal game.
You got to go 1-1 versus KC in Tennessee.
Yeah, and then yes, and then I think. If you can beat the Titans, then you get into a situation where, again, I think you need to win two of the final three. I mean, if you run the table, obviously from here on out, you're in if you're the Steelers. But if you are able to again win these next two games, then I think you have some wiggle room there. Obviously, you'd love to beat the Chiefs, but that's a very tall order, especially out in Arrowhead at that stage of the season with the way that team performs. And then, you have the Browns at home. That's obviously going to be a dangerous game. And then you go to the Ravens with, potentially then the playoffs on the line. And it's just every time the Steelers and Ravens play, you flip a coin. It doesn't matter where they're playing. It doesn't matter what time of the season it is. You flip a coin because it's going to come down to the final, couple of drives and which team is able to pull it out.
Imagine if that is a playoff elimination game. That is going to be,
and I think it is entirely possible that that's the case.
The great thing again,
I think there's a 61% likelihood that is the case this season.
Probably not good for your nerves, but again,
it'll be disastrous for me, for my health.
What could potentially set that up is that you're going to have Cleveland and Pittsburgh facing off the week before on Monday Night Football. Man, I'm going to pull up the Browns schedule right now because I have no idea who Cleveland's got left, but I know they are. I'm looking at the playoff picture here. They are in this tangle of teams that includes the Steelers, the Colts, the Raiders, who could still get into it. So let's see. Let me see who Cleveland's got left.
The thing with the Browns, and listen, there's certainly no guarantees, but that game being at Heinz Field on Monday night is, Tomlin's record is unbelievable in primetime games in general and in Monday night games in particular. It is remarkable. And listen, if the again, not a guarantee, but I will feel very confident as a Steelers fan that if the Steelers are truly in the playoff race, and it's not if 5 teams lose both of these last 2 games type of scenario. It's basically if the Steelers need a couple of wins and they're in type of scenario. The Steelers on Monday night against Cleveland, they're just not losing that game. They're just not.
Let me ask you this.
Supremely confident about that.
This is about as meaningful as asking what percentage chance the Steelers will have to get into the playoffs after tonight. But what record do you think an AFC wildcard team is going to need in order to get into that 6-7 wildcard spot? There's an extra wild card this year. Yeah, there's 7 teams in the playoffs now. What do you think the record's going to have to be? You think it's the cutoff is 10 wins, or do you think it's going to have to be higher?
That to me, I'm feeling pretty confident in the 10 wins. I think that's where you're
now
trying
maybe you
to get
into
to
tiebreakers there, but it's going to be.
And
that
listen,
range,
having
right?
that tie, depending on how you look at it, can obviously work in the Steelers' favor. But I think if you get to 10 wins, and the Steelers especially, truthfully, with that tie, I think if they get to 10. I think they're in. I think you feel pretty comfortable, pretty confident about that. If the Steelers can get to 10-6-1, again, which would be allowing one more missed opportunity, then I think you're in. I think it becomes really I think it is possible you get in with 9 wins, but I think it becomes a really dicey proposition. But listen, the AFC, it is entirely possible that there is not a in fact, I'd say it's likely. I haven't looked at the remaining schedules here completely for the Patriots and Chiefs. I think it's likely that there is not a team in the AFC with fewer than 5 losses going into the playoffs this year, right? There's not a team with fewer than 4 right now.
Sure.
So this isn't like going out on some kind of crazy limb. The chances of all of those top teams, Patriots included, Chiefs included, losing one more game somewhere along the way, right? That's
4
pretty likely.
Division leaders are 8-4 currently.
Yeah. So, again, it would just be each of those teams losing one more game. And again, I haven't broken down all of the schedules, but
so that tie could end up giving you guys a half the game leg up.
Potentially, or again, if you end up, if you end up at the 9-7-1, right? It could be what costs you. That could be the flip as well. It does not give as much margin for error for sure for the Steelers down the stretch here. But to me, it feels like the Steelers still have a game to give and still feel I would still feel very confident as we sit here today that if they go 10-6-1, I think the Steelers end up in the playoffs.
So I remember talking with you before the season started, and I think we said it at the quarter post as well. The great thing about the way the NFL sets up its schedule is that it backloads the divisional games to the end of the year.
Yep.
So in order to set up that, cataclysmic free-for-all, AFC North, the last 2 weeks of the season, because you're going to have Pittsburgh is playing Cleveland and then Baltimore.
Yep.
And Cleveland is playing Pittsburgh and then Cincinnati.
Yep.
You need to, in order to set that up, you need the Browns to go at least 2-1 in their next 3 games, because we're talking about 10-7 is sort of the threshold to get into that conversation for the 7th wildcard spot. So here's who Cleveland has left on their schedule. In those 3 games, they
big one this
host
weekend.
Baltimore this weekend. Then they host the Raiders, and then they go to Green Bay. Now, let's assume that's a loss at Lambeau. So they've got to win these next 2 weeks. So if Pittsburgh wins this tonight versus Minnesota, and Cleveland finds a way to get it done at home against Baltimore, they just played them before their bye week. It was a close loss. 16-10 was the final. I give them pretty good chance to be able to beat the Raiders on the road. Like Vegas has got to come east. You're at home.
Yeah.
I like the matchup of the Cleveland defense versus the Vegas offense. And then there you got it. Like, you got it, man. Like that, those last 2 weeks of the season in that division are going to be an absolute slugfest.
Yeah.
Bad for your nerves. Great
Awful
for the entertainment value of the NFL.
Yeah, my overall health will not be good, because
I get
for way
Cleveland
too caught up in these games.
Prime time, Tomlin, Three Rivers. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath. But I want to see that. I want to see those high stakes games those last couple of weeks.
Yeah, what's going to be interesting, I'm just trying to look up here the Bengals' remaining schedule, because, again, the Bengals have 2 decisive victories over the beloved Steelers. And, again, I just don't know what to make of – I really like Burrows. I mean, I don't, as a Steelers fan, I don't actually like him, but I do. I love what he brings to the table as a quarterback. I mean, if he was – I would love to have him as my quarterback for sure. And I just think, like I was talking about with TJ Watt earlier, he brings that to that Bengals offense. There is just a feeling, and again, I know it's not always producing the results right now, as evidenced by the loss of the Vikings, but you can just see it, that they believe in him, and he believes that he's going to find a way to get the job done for that team. But that being said, again, I don't know what to make of the Bengals right now from 1 week to the next. And I'm just looking here. So they have the 49ers at home this Sunday.
The most schizophrenic team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I think both. So
San Fran, I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm saying the Bengals are one of the most in the AFC. So you tell me how confident you are either way in that one. I mean,
what is that? The Super Bowl? That was 2 Super Bowl matchups, right?
Yeah,
San Fran, Cincinnati.
Yes. Yeah, and so I mean, the Bengals at home, that feels like a good spot for them. But again, that 49ers team, and they're coming off the tough loss. I think I said the Bengals lost to the Vikings. I meant the Chargers on this past weekend, who the Steelers played before, not who the Steelers are playing coming up. My mind is intertwining things. But listen, and the Chargers are another team where trying to figure out exactly what you're going to get 1 week to the next with that team is pretty challenging as well.
Remember how great they looked through the first 5 games? You're like, man, they're gonna run away with this thing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, at different points, it felt like the AFC as a whole, right? You started out the season saying, well, Kansas City's clearly Kansas City and or Buffalo would be the team to beat. Then Kansas City fell off a little bit. It's like, but Buffalo lost the first game, but then they looked like the team. Then it's like, well, no, Buffalo started to stumble. It's like, no, you know what? I think it's San Diego. And then right away, San Diego turned around and stumbled. And then, here come the Patriots for crying out loud. But, I mean, New England doesn't feel like there's not that aura of invincibility. Now, that's not to say I do think that they could go on and win the Super Bowl this season, but there's not the it doesn't feel inevitable by any stretch. And again, that's truthfully the kind of the fun of this season is again, on any given week, I mean, Kansas City feels like it's, certainly back to being a very, very formidable team. Obviously, the Patriots feel extremely formidable at the moment. But again, we keep seeing these things change over a couple of weeks' time. So let's see how the Patriots actually finish up. Let's see what the injury situation is with all of these teams, because that's always a big part of the equation down the stretch. But go to the Bengals. So they have the 49ers. I could see that game going any which way, right? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers blow the Bengals out. Wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals blow them out. Wouldn't be shocked if it's a close game either way. I mean, I have no idea.
It's so true.
If I'm a Bengals fan, I'm feeling good that I'm home. But again, I just saw my team lose at home by 3 touchdowns to the Chargers. So I don't know. Then they go to Denver. And that's always a tough place to play. And the Broncos are another team that, it seems like they're figuring some things out. That's certainly not a gimme by any stretch. In a late afternoon game out there. And again, in that atmosphere, literally the atmosphere being the altitude, that's always a difficult thing. And then, they're back home with the Ravens, very dangerous game. Then you're home with the Chiefs. And then at the Browns, for the Bengals, it doesn't. And again, it's the NFL. None of these games are given wins or losses. I look at that and I don't see a guaranteed win or a guaranteed loss in those final 5 games. It feels like with the overall schedule there, like it would be very hard for the Bengals to not drop a couple of those games.
For sure.
And if they do drop a couple again, then there's what you need if you're a Steelers fan, so long as you only drop one of the remaining games. But if you're the Steelers,
you guys probably have the toughest remaining 5 games of the 4 teams in the division by virtue of having to play 2 division leaders, right? Like you got to play Tennessee and KC.
Yeah,
back
I think
to back.
I think the Bengals would be right there because of the 49ers. Again, that feels like kind of a toss-up game, even though I don't know. I guess the Bengals would be favored, but and then just because they're going to Denver, I mean, if that game was at Cincinnati, I'd feel really strongly that is, again, not a given, but that the Bengals would be a rightful strong favorite. But then, those other 3 games, I mean, the Chiefs are obviously who the Steelers also play. I mean, that's a very dangerous opponent for anybody. And then, the Ravens and the Browns, and the thing is, they have the Ravens at home, but I think the Ravens are the more dangerous overall team right now. And then you have to go to Cleveland. So I think that kind of
I would like to
tilts
see
that field a little bit that way.
It's too bad the Ravens and Patriots don't play before the end of the regular season. Who knows? Maybe they'll end up playing in the playoffs. But I would like to see that game with 0 passing attempts through the whole game. I think, I perversely enjoyed that Monday Night Football game, Ironhead. I sure did.
It was funny. I was listening to it. I was out doing some things for our family business, and so I'm driving around listening to it, and it's one of those things I didn't realize. Like I knew there were a lot of runs. I mean, but I'm not paying close enough attention to realize that every single play has been a run. And then finally, they're like, Mac Jones has only attempted 1 pass in this game. I'm like, wait a second, that can't be right? And
the fewest first half passing attempts since 1978.
Which is just, it's just crazy to think about.
I loved it. It was
but
awesome.
Here's the thing. I agreed. It was, once they were talking about it, then I'm more glued in, and I'm like, holy cow. And so for the Patriots here, by the way, so they have the bye week, and then they are at the Colts, which is a dangerous game.
Oh, yeah.
Then they have the Bills at home. And again, I think that is a very dangerous game. So again, wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots win both of those. Wouldn't surprise me if they lose both of those. Then they have the Jaguars at home. That feels like a pretty sure W.
Yep.
But then they go to Miami, and yeah, I would favor the Patriots, and especially if everything's on the line.
They're kryptonite.
But
that's Belichick's kryptonite,
and especially down there, right? Because the potential, and again, you don't know what the weather's going to be, but if it happens to be one of those hot, humid days down there,
absolutely,
man, that works against you in a big
the Dolphins,
way.
Much to my chagrin, are hot. They are hot right now.
So I don't know. It as you said, this is setting up to be tremendous theater, certainly in the AFC North and for the Steelers, but really throughout the AFC and for that matter throughout the NFL. Let's take a short break here, and then we'll talk about the Eagles and take a look at the NFC and the NFC East in particular. And speaking of schizophrenic teams, you explained to me the Cowboys this season and what you think you're going to get here down the stretch with that team as well. Take a break here and be back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. We are Goonless, Chris Buganani filling in here at Quaker Steak and Lube. We're back after these
Lion Country
messages.
Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And we welcome you back in here on this Thursday afternoon as we look at the playoff chances here down the stretch for our respective teams. Taller order, but certainly not an insurmountable order here for the Philadelphia Eagles. What it really is dependent on is what Cowboys team you have down the stretch. Obviously, the Eagles are going to have to take care of some business of their own. But, so much of this is, as we've been talking about it is conference games. Obviously, the Cowboys and Eagles will meet in the final game of the regular season. But the Cowboys, I think both the Cowboys and Eagles have 2 games remaining with the Redskins. Is that right?
That is correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Now, a little quirk of the schedule because of the move to 17 games. Philly's got a game in hand, as it were. Now they're 6-7, which is not exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, not the game in hand that you wanted.
Correct.
But.
Correct. They have only 4 games left on the schedule, whereas most teams have 5. They're off this week. One of the few teams with the week 14 bye week.
Yeah, and so the Cowboys and Redskins play. If the Cowboys win that game, then the Redskins and Eagles are in a tie, right? 3 games? They need 3 games behind Dallas.
Yep. Philly would be half a game up for the week, but yes,
gotcha. Yeah.
They play each other next week, so that would be settled on the field.
So if you're an Eagles fan, right, you are rooting for the Redskins to defeat the Cowboys this week.
Correct.
And then obviously You'd like to see the Redskins take take the Cowboys a couple of times here, while you take the Redskins a couple of times, and then all of a sudden that game at the end of the season is for the whole ball of wax. Presuming everything else is you hold court everywhere else.
Yeah. So
which
Phillies,
I think is just what's the other? I just had it here, but what's the other game then for? You have the two games with the then the Giants, right, are in there
for the Eagles.
For the Eagles, yeah.
Phillies remaining 4 games, all divisional games.
Yeah,
got to play the Washington football team twice, the Giants, and the Cowboys at the end of the season.
Yeah. Okay.
So ideally, you are in a situation where, because of the up and down nature of Dallas's season, you are still talking about an NFC East title and hosting a playoff game. I'll be honest with you. My expectations as a fan are that they are for sure in postseason contention. I think it's a little bit of a long shot to think they're going to win the division, just because Dallas has a very talented roster and not a much more challenging schedule than Philly has. Right now, Philly's 6-7, Dallas is 8-4. There's some catching up the Eagles need to do.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys have got to play Washington twice and the Giants once as well. Now, they do have Arizona left on their schedule in what could be like a super duper meaningful game for either one of those teams, but specifically to the Cardinals, because they are currently in the number 1 spot, which is the only seed that's going to get a first round bye because of the way the playoffs have been restructured this season. And so Arizona is going to go to Dallas, maybe get a chance to pay them back for years and years of fake Cowboy fans showing up at their games and turning them into Dallas home games when the Cowboys travel to face the Cardinals. But for the Eagles, I think in what was expected to be a rebuilding year with a lot of moving pieces on both sides of the ball, quarterback position in transition, a rookie head coach who looks like a rookie. I mean, like Nick Sirianni looks like he's about 12 years old. So do all of his assistant coaches, practically a lot of first timers in their current positions on the staff. And, I think a team that most people were expecting to be, topping out at the 6 wins they've already achieved. Draft position is nice, but I tend to have come around to Goon's view of the process and the 76ers, which is if you don't consistently try to win, especially in the NFL, you create a culture around your team that is tough to shake once you've added the pieces that are necessary. And I really respect the fact that even in the middle of a transitional phase here, Sirianni has gotten these guys competing hard all season, and then they're in the mix to make a playoff run. So even as somebody who is a huge draft geek, and I totally understand the value of your position in the draft and, reinforcing your team with draft capital, I'm all in on play as hard as you can, go after that playoff spot. I don't care if it's a first-round exit. You got to the postseason, and you gave that experience to all the young guys who are all over the roster. I mean, ton of 23, 24, 25, 26-year-old guys on the Eagles roster. This is the core of the team that I expect to compete for the NFC East over the next few years. I'm all in on getting them playoff run experience and postseason experience, even if it's a 1-and-out.
Yep. I agree with you on the importance of that and kind of establishing that as the building block to take the next step then moving forward.
I'm a huge Steelers fan tonight, by the way.
Understood.
Just knock down all those Carolina and Minnesota type teams. If the Vikings eat a loss here, I think they're not coming back into the wild
I think
card
that
race.
is true. Yeah, I think that is true. Going back to Sirianni and as a first-year head coach, and again, I'm not watching just because of my goofy schedule. I'm not watching as much NFL as I normally do. Are they what it feels like? And again, I'm just kind of looking at some highlights and checking box scores and stuff, but it feels like they are getting back to a better emphasis of the run and
Big time.
complementing that and understanding that, if you are going to win consistently in this league, yes, for all the talk of Jalen Hurts, and I mean, you've got to get the quarterback situation solidified, and I know Minshew Mania is gripping the city at the moment, but I do think you've got to figure out whether Jalen Hurts is, definitively that long-term guy or not.
100%. A playoff run would be nice.
But
definitive answers about what you want to do with your roster going forward is the most important thing. But by the way, don't read into the fact that I wore Nick Foles' shirt today. This guy's Super Bowl MVP, okay? This is not like some kind of hidden message. If Jalen Hurts is healthy enough to play this week, he needs to play.
Yes.
Or next week, I mean.
But Miles Sanders is I don't know.
Hey, you give one of the most productive running backs in the league 20 carries a game, and what happens? Go figure.
And I think he is one of the more underappreciated elements of that operation. If again they want to get where they want to, if they're going to get where they want to get to in terms of the playoffs, and then again moving down the road, because he brings a lot of different things to the table, does Sanders. And I just think you just got to remember that he's there and be able to utilize him.
Yeah, in all fairness to Miles, because, look, obviously I have as big an emotional soft spot for that guy as you're going to get as a Nittany Lion and an Eagle, right? But the one issue that goes all the way back to his Penn State career and kind of got him in James's doghouse from time to time is the ball control stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he has, even in his most productive days, had too many instances of putting the ball on the ground. And, look, coaches hate that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he plays in a crowded backfield. The Eagles are getting good production out of the running back spot in general right now. And I remember when you and I did, we did a show where I was filling in for Goon prior to the draft, and we were talking about what's the Eagles offense going to look like. And I said the one thing that a lot of people I think have missed is that they think the Eagles offensive line is bad because last season they had an unprecedented number of injuries. They used 14 different starting combinations of the offensive line, which is like the most in modern NFL history. And I said, if they can come back healthy, offensive line might become a real strength for that team. And that was before they took a flyer on Landon Dickerson that has really paid off in the second round. Their O-line is playing great. And so, I give Sirianni a ton of credit because so many times these guys, especially the ones who are perceived as these young offensive guru types, they come in and they are so bound and determined to run their system that they'll just keep hammering away at a square peg, even though if it's clear the talent on the roster is a square hole or a round hole. And Nick Sirianni has figured out, he has gotten into a flow in his play calling that, look, we're just going to keep, even if I want to throw the ball, what I really want to do is win. And we're going to keep calling these runs until you show us you can stop it. And with the O-line Philadelphia has running out there every week right now, there's no reason to stop handing the ball to Sanders and Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, the rookie out of Memphis, who has brought a lot of dynamism to the backfield. So, I mean, I loved that Monday Night Football game with 3 passing attempts from the Patriots. So I love seeing Philly run the ball more.
Yep.
Especially because it's not totally clear, Jalen Hurts has all the tools to be a top 12 NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I keep hammering on that. If you don't have a guy you think is a top 12 passer, you got to keep looking. You got to be in kind of that top third-ish of the league It helps if you got a good defense, and they've got young guys coming on there for
and it
Philly.
Feels like he's in that group right after that, right? To at least to me right now. Again, I'm not watching this closely, but it feels like he's in that top half, or right around the kind of the mid.
Statistically, you can stack his numbers up against Lamar Jackson's or Carson Wentz's or any kind of comparison you want to draw, and he stacks up favorably. The problem is you see a game like Philly played against the Giants 2 weeks ago, where the Giants' offense was totally helpless. They couldn't do jack against Philadelphia's defense, but Philly could not score the ball in the red zone. And Jalen missed too many easy throws, too many wide open receivers on longer and intermediate routes. And he just made bad decisions when he turned the ball over in situations when you just can't do it. And look, you talk about Minshew mania. We all know what Gardner Minshew's ceiling was, and everybody in Philly saw that coming because, like, oh, God, we're playing the Jets.
Yeah.
And all you need to do so often in this offense, you saw it against the Giants, is guys are open. And, it's like watching a rich man's version of Taquan Roberson versus Iowa, right? Like, the route combinations are there, the receivers are open, but you can't quite get the ball to them. And you just need somebody who can complete those throws. And that's all Minshew was. He was very efficient in executing the offense. And Jalen Hurts can do that, just not consistent yet. Now, the reason why I am optimistic long-term is because, look, we're not getting like Aaron Rodgers, okay, right? And I'm not sold on Russell Wilson has enough left in the tank to be worth what it's going to take to prime away.
I'm with you.
And you as a Steelers fan are probably thinking about that same thing because I know he's been mentioned for Pittsburgh as well. I don't know that you're going to get a better solution. Don't look like there's going to be a better option coming out in the draft. Although I'm intrigued by Kenny Pickett. I'm not going to lie.
I will tell you, I don't know what the chances are that Kenny's available for the Steelers or how much they'd move up. But I have to tell you, I have not watched I watched just about all of that ACC championship game. And honestly, the whole time, what I was doing is trying to envision Pickett in a Steelers uniform and trying to figure out what I think of it. And I think I like it. I think I like the fact, right? I mean, when Dan Marino didn't go to Pittsburgh, because that was the hope, obviously, of Steelers fans back then.
Sure.
And this just feels like it would be. And listen, I don't know, and nobody does. I mean, nobody truly knows how Pickett's game is going to translate to the NFL, as we've talked about. That's how many guys have we over the years you're absolutely sure the game's going to translate and it doesn't, and other guys. I mean, there was a reason Tom Brady went to the 6th round, right? Like a lot of guys who spent a lot of time and money and resources looking at quarterbacks didn't think he was worth a top 5 round pick, right? I mean, every team in the NFL passed on him, at least 4 times, figure, by that point in the draft. So, it is an inexact science, but I think the fact that he is a Pittsburgh guy, and I'm watching him, and it looks like he has a lot of the intangibles, and it looks like he can make the throws that you need an NFL quarterback to make. Again, no guarantee one way or the other, but if he's there, as a Steelers fan, I think I'm wanting the Steelers to take him. And if they have to give up a little something to move up a bit in the draft, I'm not sure I'd be against that either, because you've got to at least start looking for the long-term solution. And I just don't think it's on the roster right now. I just don't.
No, I don't either. For sure. I've never been a big believer in Mason Rudolph, and look, I just whatever promise existed with Dwayne Haskins, I think is just
it's just not coming together the way. I just don't think the physical tools may be there, but it's just not. I don't think that's a future top 12 starter in the NFL. To your point earlier.
Just to finish my thought on Jalen Hurts, do you know who he reminds me of a lot, Ironhead, is Michael Robinson at Penn State. Because certainly they have the same sort of off-field profile. Like they're both Goon talks about how much he loved him in college. Yep. I did too. Like, man, it was hard to not respect and enjoy with that guy and the decisions he made to stick with Alabama and the payoff it had for him and for the program. So I liked his game. I love him as an off-field guy. Apparently the locker room loves him. He's a great leader. I remember earlier in M-Rob's career, he just was not a polished passer, right? I mean, the guy was never like it's like a Kenny Pickett type pocket quarterback, even in 2005. But going into that season, I remember thinking like, man, Joe is just, tripling down on M-Rob as the starter. I'm not sure that guy can make the throws. Yeah. And the issues that Jalen Hurts has and has showed through his first 2/3 of this season, to me, really mirrors the way M-Rob looked as a part-time starter in 03 and 04. And then, again, like you were never going to have him be a guy who threw for, 3,000 yards in a season. But the difference between 03, 04, and 05 in terms of his ability as a passer, night and day. That's all you needed. You didn't need him to be a 3,500-yard game because yards a season guy, because he was so dynamic as a player. He could beat you on the run. He could beat you on the throw. And what he brought to the huddle and the way he elevated the game of the other 10 guys out there on the field with him was worth whatever you gave up in his abilities as a pure passer. And so to me, the intrigue is, can Jalen Hurts just get to that level? He doesn't have to play like Aaron Rodgers, but if he can just elevate himself as a passer a little bit, be a little bit more consistent than he's been in what is his functional rookie season, in my opinion, then there's no reason not to continue to ride with the guy, especially because you're paying him second-round pick money to be your starting quarterback, which gives you like a 3-4 year window, 3-year window, I guess, to go out and compete to try to win another Super Bowl.
Yep. I'm on board with all of that, and would be if I was an Eagles fan, which I am not.
By the way, if you are wondering what they are putting in the wing sauce at Quaker Steak and Lube to have me talking this way about the Philadelphia Eagles, you wonder, are we watching the same team? You'll just have to come out here and try the wings and see.
3 quick things just to finish up. I forgot to mention on Tuesday, and I really did want to, and when you were talking about Miles Sanders and missed opportunities for lack of a better term. Deontay Johnson, can I just tell you, when he dropped that ball, I mean, I'm screaming at the TV and I'm like, that's so uncharacteristic of him this season. Now, past, yes, but he's made, a lot has been made of the offseason changes to the workouts and how focused he is on his hands. I have to tell you, to drop that ball and then to turn around and have the second half that he did on Sunday, where he almost single-handedly, again, I said TJ Watt did it earlier, but it was TJ and Deontay that saved the Steelers' hide in that game with the Ravens. But what he was able to do in putting that behind him and then make ridiculous catch after ridiculous catch in the second half was just great stuff. And as a Steelers fan, a whole lot of fun to watch. Also forgot to mention with Penn State football, I think it is a huge deal that Anthony Poindexter is coming back.
For sure.
At least feels like a certainty now that he's coming back as a defensive coordinator. And it's not that I think it was the end of the world if they had to go out, because I think James Franklin has a pretty good track record here and would have hired somebody good. But I think getting that stability in that position in a program that is looking, again, I think as important as anything right now is, and James Franklin has rightfully said, you're never going to begrudge somebody moving on for, a better position, right? Like that's kind of what you're here for to a large degree. But this program right now feels like it needs some stability, right? Offensively, for sure. But I think defensively, you just want to have that feeling that, okay, we are actually truly building and not just, again, filling in year after year after year.
Yeah.
And I think keeping him, to me, feels like a huge win for this program. Again, to me, as much about just keeping everybody in that locker room. Okay, we know the system now on both sides of the ball next season, and you'd like to keep that at least the coordinators together for a few seasons here. Like, you'd like to keep that together for at least through 2023, and see if you can really build on whoever ends up as the quarterback next year. Getting a couple of years into the system, because it feels to me like now 2023 is kind of, and I know it's a moving target, and it has been for a variety of reasons. To me, 2023 now feels like that season, 2023, 2024. Those two seasons to me feel like and again, not saying that they couldn't go out and surprise next year, but to me, you're building out toward feeling like you need to be making a real run at the playoffs in one of those following two seasons after next year. And again, that's not to say it couldn't come together and happen next season, but to me now you're kind of looking at 2023 and 2024 as those seasons where, listen, Penn State needs to break through and kind of capitalize on all this talent they're building. And to me, you need a year at least with a quarterback in there to kind of feel like, all right, now we really have a chance. So again, I think Poindexter coming back is big.
Yeah, on that note, I'll make my little hot take prediction here. I think we're going to be in the market for a running backs coach real soon.
I think so too.
I see what Billy Napier's got to spend on assistants. Yeah. It's tough to avoid going home. I think Jaywan Sider's probably going to be packing his bags.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, Gary Brown, running backs coach at Wisconsin. You hurt a conference rival, and you're bringing Nittany Lion back home.
Yeah,
could do a lot worse.
For sure. And finally, just one of my favorite things every year is that Army-Navy football game, which will be Saturday. If you just even if you're not a football fan, that is just one of those games that and it is on my bucket list. I have never been in person to an Army-Navy game. My grandfather got to one and talked about it till the day he died, about just how special it was in person. And it is something I want to get to in person. But I love watching that game. That's the CBS Open from whatever it was it 3 or 4 years? The years run together, but with the wagons. And it is one of the all-time, look up Army-Navy opening or something. And if you didn't see it, it is just one of the where they're handing the letters saying that your son's been accepted to the Naval Academy or to the Military Academy, and it was a really well done open, but it captured the reason I think that game has such a special meaning for everybody in this country, and I'm looking forward to that game because I always do, and I don't. My dad was a Navy guy, so I root for Navy, but I more so just root for a good game. And just love watching that game every year, and all of the pregame and postgame tradition that goes with it. It's just one of the really meaningful, special sporting events in this country, and I'm fired up again to watch it again on Saturday. We will be back on Tuesday with yet another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Go Steelers, bring home a W tonight, and until Tuesday,
beat the Vikings.
Be good and be safe.
Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
Tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,